My wife's entire family knew she was cheating on me with my rich law firm boss and helped her hide it at my 37th birthday party. When I finally confronted them, they told me to be mature and accept it. They're soulmates. My mother-in-law even said, "Don't be selfish, they're happy together." I just smiled and said, "You're right, I should be happy for them." Then I handed an envelope to my wife and her parents. Minutes later, she was screaming and begging me to come back as she stared at what was inside. Chapter 1. The Perfect Party. The night smelled of perfume, expensive whiskey, and lies. The chandeliers in our dining hall threw golden light across smiling faces. My wife's family, my co-workers, and the man who signed my paychecks. It was my 37th birthday, but somehow it felt like my funeral. I watched Lisa, my wife of 9 years, laugh too loudly at a joke whispered by my boss, Richard. His hand brushed her lower back, just a little too casually, and no one flinched, not her mother, not her father, not even her brother, who clinked at glasses like it was all normal, because they already knew. I didn't know when they'd found out, but I knew how. 2 weeks earlier, I'd left work late and returned to the office to grab my laptop. The lights in Richard's office were still on, the door was half open, and there she was, Lisa, sitting on his desk, her fingers tangled in his tie. Their laughter had that dangerous intimacy that kills something in you the moment you hear it. I didn't confront them that night. I just closed the door quietly and walked away. But now, watching them flirt across my dinner table while her mother giggled like it was romantic fate, that's when the pain stopped being pain. It turned into something colder, sharper. "You're so lucky, Lisa," her mother said. "Richard's such a gentleman. He's also my boss," I replied, smiling thinly. "Oh, come on," she said. "Don't be dramatic. You should be mature about it. They're soulmates. Soulmates." The word clanged inside me like a church bell at a funeral. Even her father, normally quiet, added, "You can't stand in the way of love, son." That's when I smiled, a calm, eerie smile that made even Richard pause mid-laugh. "You're right," I said softly. "I should be happy for them." Lisa looked at me confused at first, then cautious. Because she knew that tone, it wasn't anger, it was control. I stood up, reached into my jacket, and pulled out a small white envelope. "Here," I said, handing it to Lisa. "You'll want to open this." Then I turned to her parents. "One for you too. It's the least I could do for family." The table fell silent. The only sound was the faint crinkle of paper as Lisa tore the envelope open, and then her face drained of color. Whatever warmth was left in the room turned to ice. Her hands trembled, her lips parted. No words, just panic. Richard leaned over to look, then his jaw locked. "What the hell is this?" he muttered. I just smiled, picked up my glass, and said quietly, "A birthday gift from me to all of you," and as I walked out, Lisa screamed my name. Chapter 2. The truth inside the envelope. They thought I'd brought party favors. They thought it was a joke, something petty to puncture the night's awkwardness. No one laughed when Lisa slit the flap and drew out the first item. Inside, on top, was a small, glossy photograph. A still from a midnight security camera. It was grainy, washed in the orange glow of the parking lot lights. Lisa stepping out of Richard's car, hair loose, glove in hand. Richard waiting at the passenger door, his suit jacket half unbuttoned. The timestamp on the corner said 2 weeks ago, 11:43 p.m. Her mouth formed the shape of a question, but no sound came. Her eyes danced over the picture and then snapped to me as if she'd been caught mid-breath. She drew another paper from the stack, a screenshot of a message thread. The sender name at the top read, "Our casual flirtatious." The words were small and clinical, but the content was not. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Just a little longer, my love. Don't tell anyone." Dates, times, timestamps, everything lined up with the photographs. There were more things. A restaurant receipt with a private room search charge paid on Richard's corporate card labeled client dinner, but dated the same night as the parking lot photo. A hotel valet ticket with a license plate number that matched the registration on Richard's fancy sedan. A blurred selfie of the two of them in a dim bar booth. Lisa's laugh, Richard's chin grazing her shoulder, and beneath the evidence, neat and cold, was a single printed email header to Richard. Richard at Lindstrom Firm. Subject, Expense Report. March 12th. The body showed reimbursements filed as client entertainment. The receipts matched the nights in the photos, for a long, suspended heartbeat. The room did not move. Her mother, the woman who'd hours before told me to be mature, palled, then reached with trembling fingers for one of the papers, like she might smooth the truth into something softer. Her father, who had been so casual about love, sat rigid, a distant color draining from his face. Richard's smile hardened into something tight and unreadable. He cleared his throat. This is harassment, some kind of prank. He didn't look at me. He looked at the envelope, trying to read the tone of it, trying to bargain with the space between the pictures and the paper. Lisa's voice broke first. You, where did you? How did you get these? She sounded small, the way people do when the ground moves beneath them. I shrugged, calm as a man who's checked the weather before leaving the house. They were wrapped up nicely, I said. I thought you'd appreciate them. Happy birthday to me, right? Her brother laughed, a thin sound that failed. This is a joke. You're trying to ruin my sister's life on her birthday? Is it a joke? I asked. Or is it the truth wrapped in white paper? Her father stood up. You're making a scene. He reached for the envelope and I watched his hand hesitate over the photos. He'd defended them before dinner. Now his fingers trembled. The same hand that had clapped at toasts was suddenly unsure how to touch the world it had helped build. Lisa whispered, You don't understand. He's powerful. He's my boss. The words stumbled out like an excuse, and then, like a confession, Richard moved toward the table. Give me that. His voice was controlled, practiced the voice of a man used to controlling rooms. I didn't move. I only rested my palm on the table over the envelope, as if safeguarding a small, dangerous thing. Take a breath, Richard, I said softly. Look at the dates, look at the receipts. See who pays for what someone from the other side of the table, one of my colleagues who'd been pretending not to notice, coughed awkwardly and slid his chair back the way you do when you realize you've been sitting at the edge of a sleeping volcano. Her mother lifted a shaking hand to her mouth. For the first time that night, the phrase "be mature" sounded like a mockery, like a verdict handed down without jury. We thought you two were. She couldn't finish. The sentence died into the space between them, a silence stretched. It was not the soft, companionable hush of people enjoying cake. It was the kind of silence that held a new terrible shape, the shape of a secret laid bare. Richard's jaw clicked. You're playing a dangerous game, he hissed. This could ruin careers. I smiled as if at a pleasant coincidence. That's the point. Lisa pushed to her feet, hands wild. No, you can't send these. She looked at her parents, then at Richard, then back at me. Please, I can explain. Explain what? That she'd chosen a man with power and privilege over 9 years of marriage? That she'd traded vows for a seat at somebody else's table? Her pleas sounded thin in the face of paper that did not bend. Her mother's eyes filled with tears, not for me, not for the humiliation at the table, but for the altar of image she'd been protecting. Everyone makes mistakes, she said, voice trembling. You should forgive. Forgive, I echoed. Forgive the deception. Forgive the lies. Forgive the dinners on his corporate card. My voice did not rise. The cold in it did the work anger would have done. Richard reached for the envelope. His fingers brushed the corner of the photo. For a second, I expected him to grab it and rip the evidence into a million unreadable pieces. Instead, he paused, then turned away, eyes hard, calculating damage, not defense. Let's not make a scene, he said, and his words were sugar over a razor. We can handle this privately. But I had no interest in private negotiations. This had never been about shame in a drawing room. This was about truth in daylight. So I stood. I lifted my glass. There's one more thing, I said, and their faces dipped toward me like flowers toward an unexpected frost. From my pocket, I produced a tiny flash drive, black, ordinary, and deadly simple. Everything on there goes to 3 places in the morning, I said. HR at Lindstrom, the partner's inbox, and a copy to Richard's wife, so she has a chance to read it before the firm does. You could see the color drain from Richard's face. His smile that evening had been currency. Suddenly, it had no exchange rate. Lisa screamed. It wasn't the cinematic once-and-done yell from a movie. It was raw, jagged, the sound of someone whose future had been sealed in a neat stack of paper. Her parents stood as if wind-blown. The room became an island of stunned, breathless people. People moved, cutlery clinked, chairs scraped. Someone whispered a prayer. I folded my coat over my arm and began to walk away. As I reached the doorway, I glanced back once. Consider tonight my birthday present. I said quietly. "You'll have your answers in the morning." I stepped out into the night, into the cold I'd lived in for months, and that I'd promised would be the last of it. Behind the glass, the faces I'd loved and trusted were unmade for now by the simple weight of truth. My phone buzzed as I walked to my car. A single message from an address no one in that room would expect. Delivered HR at Lindstrom Firm. One attachment. Partners at Lindstrom Firm. One attachment. I drove away with the engine warm beneath me and the knowledge that morning would bring an avalanche. And somewhere inside the house, someone kept screaming. Chapter 3. After the reveal, morning came like a slow hammer. By 9/9, the whole firm knew. When I walked into Lindstrom and Associates, the hallways were quieter than I'd ever heard them. Normally, there'd be a tide of chatter and clacking keyboards. Now people looked up from screens only long enough to study my face and then look away again. The partner's suite was sealed off. I saw HR moving like ghosts with folders clutched to their chests. Someone whispered my name, another whispered Richard, and then the sound died in a ripple of silence. By 10:01, Richard's door was shut, blinds drawn. Through the glass, I could see 2 senior partners, a compliance officer, and his assistant stacking boxes. The firm was efficient that way, liability first, sentiment later. Lisa called 6 times. I didn't answer. At 11:17, HR summoned me upstairs. The woman across from me smiled with that careful professional kindness reserved for survivors of disasters they can't mention. "We received some materials this morning," she said. "They were thorough evidence," I asked. "Yes," she said softly, "and thank you for bringing it through the right channels." I didn't tell her that the channels were timed emails set to deliver, whether or not I woke up. I simply nodded, signed a brief statement confirming my resignation from the firm, and slid my security badge across the desk. The moment I stepped out of the building, I felt lighter, like the first clean breath after a long illness. That night, the calls changed tone, no longer anger, but pleading. Lisa's voice trembled on the voicemail. "They fired him. His wife's leaving. You ruined everything. Please, can we talk? You can't just walk away from 9 years." Her mother left one message too. "You've made your point. She's learned her lesson. Be mature. Come home." That phrase again. Be mature. It had always meant swallow the pain so we don't have to see it. Now it just sounded like surrender. I didn't call back. Instead, I sent a single text. "The house deed and mortgage are in my name. I'll have your things delivered. Please find another place before the weekend." No reply came. Just 3 blinking dots that appeared, vanished, and never returned. 2 days later, news of Richard's sudden resignation hit the local legal blog. The article was brief, but the comment section wasn't. Anonymous posts from staff, whispers about inappropriate relations, a pattern of client entertainment that had finally caught up with him. Lisa's family went silent. The same people who'd lectured me about Soulmates couldn't find a single word. When the Soulmates' career collapsed, I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I packed my office files into one small box, dropped it in my car trunk, and drove home under a rain that washed the last bits of bitterness off the windshield. As I pulled into the driveway, movers were carrying boxes labeled Lisa, her clothes, her books, the small things that once meant permanence. I didn't watch them leave. I just stood there, rain dripping off the brim of my coat, and whispered, "Happy birthday" to me. That night, I sat in the quiet of my living room. No music, no chatter, just the tick of the clock and the soft hum of the refrigerator. For the first time in years, I wasn't angry. I was just empty in a clean way, the kind that makes space for something new. But revenge stories don't end that neatly, because even peace comes with a knock at the door, and 3 nights later when I opened it, Lisa was standing there, eyes swollen, coat soaked through, holding the last envelope I'd sent her. Chapter 4. The second envelope, rain traced crooked paths down her cheeks. Though I couldn't tell if it was the weather or tears, she stood on my doorstep, shivering, mascara smudged, clutching a small white envelope, the same kind I'd once handed her across a crowded birthday table. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Only the sound of rain filled the space between us, that same patient, steady rhythm I used to listen to through the garage roof when I worked late nights to pay for our home. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. Her voice cracked on the last word, like something brittle finally snapping. I hesitated. Everything inside me wanted to slam the door, but curiosity won. not compassion. I stepped aside. She entered slowly, scanning the house like she was walking through a memory that no longer belonged to her. The warmth hit her immediately. She glanced at the heater humming in the corner, the same model I'd begged her to let me install years ago. The one she said ruined the aesthetic. Now her fingers stretched toward it like someone starved for sunlight. "You did it," she said after a long silence. "You really destroyed everything?" "No," I replied. "I just stopped protecting lies." She opened the envelope damp from the rain and pulled out the papers inside. Divorce documents already signed by me, already filed. Her eyes scanned them quickly, her lips trembling. "So, that's it? 9 years gone like this? 9 years ended when you chose him," I said. "Tonight's just the paperwork." She shook her head, a hollow laugh escaping. "You think this fixes you? You think this makes you better than me?" "No," I said simply. "It makes me free." She stepped closer, her perfume faint under the smell of rain. "You can't just walk away from what we built." "We didn't build it," I said quietly. "I did. You just lived in it, for a heartbeat." I saw the woman I'd once loved, not the liar, not the stranger, just Lisa standing there in the ruins of her choices. And for a flicker of a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then she whispered, "He's gone, you know, Richard, fired. His wife left him. He says I ruined him." "Good," I said. "Now he knows what it feels like." She looked up sharply, expecting satisfaction in my eyes, but there was none, just a calm she couldn't touch. "What are you going to do now?" she asked. "Live," I said, honestly for once. When she left, she didn't slam the door. She just walked into the rain, disappearing into the night that had once hidden her secrets. I stood by the window until her figure blurred into the storm, and for the first time since that cursed birthday, I felt no anger, no guilt, no love, just stillness. But before turning away, I noticed something. On the table where she'd set the envelope, a photograph had slipped out. A picture of us from years ago, back when we were still smiling, still believing. I picked it up, looked at it for a long time, then placed it face down. Outside, thunder rolled softly in the distance. Not angry, just final. The next morning, I sent a courier with one last envelope addressed to her parents. Inside was a check. Not revenge money, just closure. "You once told me to be mature. I finally took your advice. Don't call me again." That day, my phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. It was from Richard's wife. "Thank you for telling me the truth. I'm rebuilding, and you should too. People like them only burn others to stay warm." I stared at the message, smiled faintly, and deleted it because I already knew the fire was over. Chapter 5. The birthday gift. 1 year later, I celebrated my 38th birthday alone, and it was perfect. No party, no speeches, no masks, just a quiet dinner on my balcony, a glass of wine, and the city lights blinking in the distance. A skyline that used to intimidate me, but now just felt like freedom. The air was cool, the kind that carried the memory of rain without the rain itself. I could still remember that night, the laughter, the betrayal, the cold calm that settled over me when I handed out those envelopes. It didn't haunt me anymore. It defined me. I'd left the law firm months ago and started my own small legal consultancy. Quiet work, no politics, no vultures. Clients came for fairness, not favors. I didn't make as much money as before, but I slept better. On the wall beside my desk hung a framed copy of a note, the one Richard's wife had sent me after everything fell apart. "Thank you for telling me the truth. People like them only burn others to stay warm." It reminded me that sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it whispers through the ruins. A soft knock pulled me back to the present. I opened the door to find Mrs. Carson, my elderly neighbor, smiling shyly with a small birthday cake in her hands. "You live too quiet, dear," she said. "Figured you could use a wish." I laughed genuinely for the first time in a long while. "Thank you. I think I already got my wish last year." She tilted her head. "What was it?" I looked past her at the calm, open night. Peace later. As I washed the dishes, I caught sight of an old photo tucked in the back of a drawer. Me and Lisa from our wedding day. I almost threw it away, but something stopped me. Instead, I took out a pen and wrote a single line on the back. "I finally became happy for you, just not in the way you imagined." Then I folded it neatly and placed it in the same envelope she had once opened on that terrible birthday. I sealed it, wrote, returned to sender, and slid it into the drawer, a memento, not a wound. That night, I poured one last drink and stepped outside. The moonlight fell across the table the same way the chandelier had that night, but this time, there was no tension, no performance, no deceit. I raised my glass quietly and whispered to the truth. The only gift worth giving a breeze lifted the curtains. The city hummed, somewhere far away. Thunder murmured like an old secret finally put to rest. And with that, I smiled, not the calm, calculated smile from a year ago, but one that felt light, clean, human, because revenge had ended a story, but forgiveness that started a new one. Final reflection, the price of peace. People think revenge is about winning, but real revenge isn't victory, it's balance. It's taking back your self-worth without losing your humanity. I didn't destroy Lisa, I just stopped letting her live rent-free in my soul. That was the true birthday gift. Some truths don't explode, they unfold, and sometimes the quietest revenge is peace itself. If this story touched you, like, share, and subscribe, not just for stories of payback, but for stories that remind us justice isn't about breaking others. It's about rebuilding yourself. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. Hit like if you crave justice and share this story with someone who needs its fire. Subscribe to Lauren's story, because here betrayals don't sleep. They hunt their owners. Every shadow hides a reckoning. Every mask breaks and every betrayal is answered. Stay sharp. Stay unbroken. Stay tuned.